Hey YouTube people, how are you? It has passed 1 month after we made our last video about our greenhouse, and I wanted to record again so we can see the updates in our greenhouse. I'm gonna explain you step by step how our plants are growing after 1 month and the new additions. Entering our greenhouse, now we are on December month, we moved our big basil. But as you can see, it has lived really well. I'm really impressed with the way it has lived. In these conditions, as you can see, the roof is really wet because of the weather conditions. Despite it's December month, it has been a lot of hot conditions. It has lived really well, our big basil. I'm really happy that our basil is really growing. And as you can see in the top of the plant, I can sense a really good smell. Now down here we have our cherry tomato plant that I showed to you since the beginning of this series. And as you can see, it has grown a lot like a beast. I'm gonna step outside of the greenhouse so you can see the dimensions of how our cherry tomato plant is growing. Many additional stems have been growing. Our principal stem, our main stem, has been divided, and many additional stems are being growing. Many flowers we have down here also. You can see now in the top of the plant 3 groups of flowers. Down here we have more flowers. Some of them are already pollinated. Some cherry tomatoes are actually growing on this plant. And if you can see down on this side, you can see many cherry tomatoes that are already growing. Fortunately, I took care of a plague that attacked my greenhouse. That plague consisted in whiteflies, aphids, red spiders, all the common plagues that attack most of the greenhouses and most of this type of plants, fruit plants. Well, now on this side, let's see how our pepper plants are growing. I already presented you these peppers on the last video. And see how many peppers we have already. We haven't harvested yet, but they are growing really well. At least we have 1 pepper growing on each plant. These are jalapeno pepper plants. I covered each flower pot with black soil, as you can see, so our plant can be fresh. And because I had a problem with my prepared soil, because it consists only in organic residues, so many water gets filtered in that prepared soil. That's why I placed this top layer of black soil, so our plant can keep wet. Our jalapeno pepper plant is growing really well. Now we have our serrano pepper plant, the update of this plant. I told you that we had many problems with this plant. As you can see, we have at least 1 or 2 peppers growing already. But the problem on this plant was because a plague arrived on this plant. And I made a solution of water with soap. And because I don't know how to make correctly that solution, I really injured my plants. Because all the chemicals that contain our soap, it's really bad for our plants. I don't recommend you to use this solution unless you know how to make the solution correctly. I place some of that solution on these both peppers and these plants, and this serrano pepper plant really got injured. Our jalapeno also, but it's growing correctly at least. Now on this side, do you remember our cherry tomato plants? These cherry tomatoes that I was just planting in the last video, they are growing really well. Some stems are getting down, but I already I tied them up with some thread, some fine thread, as you can see. As you can see, here is my thread supporting all my stems. So I should tie them up again to support all those stems that are going to down. And I'm really happy with these cherry tomato plants. Between each flower pot, as you can see, here in the basil, there's a flower pot. Here between the peppers, there's other flower pot. And here with our cherry tomato plant and the red wishes, we have other flower pot. What I'm looking for down here is that between each fruit plant, I would like to plant a basil, very similar to this one. Why? Because I was investigating, and actually the basil and the smell that it has is a really good repellent for our plagues. Mainly for our 3 plagues in this type of greenhouse: the white fly, the aphids, and the red spiders. So placing up some basils between each plant will help me a lot to not to take care of some type of plagues. Well, after mentioning this, we can check how our red wishes are growing. Unfortunately, I don't have any flowers on these red wishes yet, but they are growing really well. Here we have our manzano pepper plant. Do you remember it? It's growing really well. Each leaf is, when I touch them, they really smell as pepper. And now on this side, do you remember that we have other tomato plants? This one is the beef tomato plant. Unfortunately, this beef tomato keeps growing, but no flowers at all. That's really annoying for me because for experience I will tell that I'm not sure about all the cares that the beef tomato needs. As you can see, here are some sprouts, but they are delaying a lot to grow. So let's see if some months we get up some flowers and some fruits growing. Now here there's also a flower pot where I would like to have a basil. And now on this side, in this big flower pot, we have other tomato. This is a beef tomato that was growing in the other side with the biodegradable pots. Also we have a flower pot for basil. And these pepper plants, you have already seen these pepper plants. These pepper plants are delaying a lot to grow, but it's normal. It's normal on pepper plants. And they are not really hard to take care of. On this side we have more tomato plants. This is also a beef tomato. These tomatoes were in biodegradable pots, as I said. Down here, this flower pot, you already seen this. Do you remember the tomato that was with 2 basil plants? And I mentioned in the last video that I recommend to separate these varieties. But investigating a little more, this basil will help our tomato to keep all the plagues outside. On this side we have, I think they are sweet pepper plants. They are delaying a lot in growing, and as you can see in each leaf, they have like some bites down there. It seems that there are some aphids down there. These flower pots are also for growing up some basils to control the plague. And on this side, do you remember that I mentioned in the last video that when you make this type of projects, this type of greenhouse, not all the plants are going to get up correctly. They are not going to grow correctly. Not all of them. So I suppose these plants are not growing correctly. And now this is cilantro. Do you remember our cilantro? The cilantro was really bothering me, but now it took a really good energy, and our cilantro is really growing. Is growing really good. The stems are really strong now. They are not so fragile at all. It takes a really good energy now. On this side we have some asparagus. Do you remember them? We have them also in biodegradable pots in the last video, but now look how tall they are. Their stem is not that strong, but they are growing really well. It's not so fragile, it cannot get broken, the stem cannot be broken, they are really flexible plants. Well, on this side we have our worm seed plant. You have seen this plant already. Look, that stem is already, it's also down there, the stem that went outside of our flower pot. But fortunately, the plants that are inside are growing really well, as you can see. Now, down here, the biodegradable flower pots that still remain are these ones. Maybe it results so familiar to you, some varieties down here. They are going really good, these biodegradable flower pots and these plants down here. So we will wait until they grow enough, big enough to transplant them into another flower pot. And you remember all the flowers, all the plants that we had in this section? Well, we bought 2 flower pots that are really spacious for the entire growth of this type of plants. These flower pots are these ones that we are looking at. All that plants that you look down there were our green tomatoes that we had in the biodegradable flower pots in the section I said before. So in these flower pots they are going to grow really well because they are tall enough and large enough, and they fit really perfectly inside our greenhouse. I will inform you how they keep growing. I don't know exactly if the green tomato grows tall enough, but I decided to place it in the ground so it can grow to the height of our greenhouse. For the last thing, I want to mention you something. Despite I really like the biodegradable flower pots, I bought a seed bed. A seed bed of 72 spaces to plant 72 varieties of plants. As you can see, I already planted some peppers, some tomatoes, and some green tomatoes also. As you can see in this other side, I have already 3 plants. They were not planted down here. They are called cuttings. These 3 plants are cuttings. What do I refer when I say cutting? Well, for example, in this cherry tomato plant, there's a way to cut these tomatoes correctly. To cut it correctly, you should cut what is called as the armpit. It's a stem that grows between the main stem and the other stem where the leaves are. This armpit that you're looking at is the one that you need to cut. Okay, that armpit down there, it grows another stem because it takes force, so the cherry tomato plant does not grow correctly. So I cut that armpit, but I did not want to lose that big stem that was already growing really good. So I cut that armpit, and I placed it down here in this seedbed. I placed those armpits in this seedbed, waiting for them to grow some roots. These armpits can actually grow some roots, and we can clone the plant. The tomatoes have that ability to clone themselves using the armpits that grow between the principal stem and the stem with leaves. There are some chemicals that help you in making up some roots for these armpits. So we will have a new tomato. It's a clone. It's a clone with cuttings. It's cloning with cuttings. That's the concept. So I made the same procedure with 3 different cuttings. One with cherry tomato and 2 others with a beef tomato plant. So let's see if we can get new plants, get new clones without planting a real new plant. So those are the little techniques that I already checked. Reading some articles in the internet. This other flower pot, there are tomatoes also, but they're going to be as a gift. I hope you enjoyed this video. We are going really good in our greenhouse. I cannot wait to harvest some tomatoes, some peppers. I think we're gonna harvest first some peppers and these cherry tomato plants. I was investigating also about the pollination of peppers and tomato plants. I will talk about that in other videos, so you can actually pollinate manually all the plants without insects. That is really good because I can actually close the door from the greenhouse, so the warmth stays inside and the plants can grow really better. Well, of that concept we're gonna talk about in another video. I hope you enjoy it. Please comment and leave your like and subscribe so we can still do these videos. Thanks a lot and take care. I'm Diego and take care.